Hi, everyone, and welcome to this special Taproot Foundation webinar, Trust Law, an Introduction to Legal Pro Bono. I'm Samina Usmani, and I'm the content manager here at Taproot. And we're thrilled to be joined by Kelsey Lee from TrustLaw, which is the legal pro bono service of Thomson Reuters Foundation. And TrustLaw has been a fantastic partner and resource for nonprofit community members for years. And just a little bit about what we do here at Taproot. Taproot Foundation drives social change by leading, mobilizing, and engaging professionals in pro bono service. We've been around since 2001, and our community of more than 30,000 skilled volunteers has served over 10,000 nonprofits and social change organizations. And our dedicated volunteers have logged over 1.9 million hours of service. And now I am thrilled to introduce our guest speaker, Kelsey Lee, TrustLaw's legal officer of North America and the Caribbean. Kelsey, welcome, and thank you so much for joining us.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for having me here to present today. As Samina said, my name is Kelsey Lee, and I'm a legal officer with TrustLaw. I want to quickly walk through our agenda for today before we get started. So first, I'll be giving a brief introduction to the Thomson Reuters Foundation and to TrustLaw, which is a part of the Thomson Reuters Foundation. Second, I will use an in-house tool we call our Legal Health Check to help you think through any legal pro bono needs you might have for your organization. And third, I will explain how to access that pro bono support from TrustLaw if needed, including membership criteria. And finally, I will stop for questions. So please also feel free to jump in anytime with questions, and let's get started. So just to kick off with some background, we being Thomson Reuters Foundation, are the corporate foundation of Thomson Reuters, and launched more than 10 years ago. TrustLaw is part of that corporate foundation. So at the foundation, we use the combined power of journalism and the law to advance media freedom, foster more inclusive economies, and promote human rights. So we really work in those three pillars to guide all of our work. So that's media freedom, human rights, and inclusive economies. And through news, media development, free legal assistance, and convening initiatives, we combine our unique services to drive systemic change in these three pillars. And so to achieve progress, I mentioned the 4 core services, and so I'll just give you a little bit more information about each of those. So in thinking about our news coverage, we have a global editorial team of almost 50 journalists and 300 freelancers covering unreported human impact stories about women's rights, LGBTQIA+ rights, poverty, climate change, social innovation, modern slavery, and international development. We also run a series of training and grants programs led by world-class experts that combine hands-on experience and then also opportunities for international distribution of any news outputs. Trust Conference is also the Thomson Reuters Foundation flagship event held in London every year. This year it will be in October, and it's a leading human rights forum where we bring together 600 delegates across sectors around the world to talk about critical and cutting-edge issues. And then lastly, what we're really here to talk about is the pro bono legal assistance we provide through TrustLaw. So I do want to get into a little bit more about what we do here at TrustLaw. And so just to start off, we work in 2 different buckets. So we provide legal advice pro bono through advisory work or research work. And so on your screen, you can see that first we're going to talk about the advisory support we can offer in really any area of law, including corporate law, contract law, intellectual property, banking and finance, employment, real estate, really any type of legal question that your organization needs support for, we can connect you with pro bono lawyers to help provide that support. So here we really facilitate that free legal advice and assistance to enable your organizations to streamline their operations, expand into new countries, and scale your impact. So some of the examples of support we can provide for day-to-day needs are establishing new legal entities. So if you are a nonprofit looking to incorporate as a nonprofit in a new country, perhaps that's something we could assist with. Or if you're looking to develop a for-profit arm under the nonprofit arm, that's also something that we can assist with. We can provide advice on hiring employees and independent contractors. Lawyers can assist with either reviewing or drafting corporate and commercial contracts and agreements, such as partnership agreements, sponsorship agreements, really any type of contract that you might need drafted or advice on. We can also provide advice on any intellectual property issues, such as trademarks, patents, copyrights, and then data protection policies. Now that most organizations are moving services online or offering some services online, some privacy regulations, and then website terms and conditions. We also provide support in terms of legal research. So we connect organizations such as yours with world-class legal research from pro bono lawyers across the world, which you can then use to drive social missions and lead groundbreaking legal and policy reforms. So this is really where we're assisting organizations with the social mission rather than the operational aspect that we would for the advisory support. So I'll give some more detailed examples later, but this could be an internal document such as a memo on a new piece of legislation that might help inform your organization's litigation efforts or advocacy strategy. Or it could be an external published report such as a Know Your Rights Guide to help with your public-facing policy work, or to be shared amongst your membership or communities that you're doing the work in. So this research that we do is often cross-jurisdictional. It can involve multiple law firms across the world or in-house teams that work together, but it can also be a smaller, more focused project for one firm in one jurisdiction, such as a really detailed, in-depth memo on one new piece of legislation that's happening in one state, as an example. So it really can be a wide array of research opportunities that we can assist with. And then just to give a little bit of an oversight or overview on our work here, we're really a global team. So we operate all over the world. We have over 6,500 members. We've connected projects in 175 countries. In the last 10 years, we've generated 205 million USD in pro bono hours. So there really is a huge value to be gained from joining, and there is a lot of value that our lawyers are providing pro bono, and that would really make a huge difference for the organizations that they work with. So let's get a little bit more into do you have a legal pro bono need, really going through those common legal questions to see whether this is something that might be of service to your organization. So we use this term called the TrustLaw Legal Health Check. It really is what we just call our guide to see whether you have legal pro bono needs, to help your organization really think through the different aspects that I've already talked about in terms of contract law, intellectual property law, corporate law, to see whether we can assist you with your legal needs. And so that can be found on our website and will be shared with you following the webinar. But if you want to complete the full legal health check, you can do so online. I'm just going to walk through a few questions, common questions under each category. So why don't we start with structuring and governance? These are really questions about the structure of your organization. I'm sure some of you are already thinking about this, but it might be, is your legal structure the most appropriate for your current operations and activities? So for example, are you looking to start some kind of social enterprise or for-profit arm for your nonprofit? These are the types of questions that maybe pro bono lawyers could help you think through, advise you on the different legal implications associated with each type of corporate structure, and then help you maybe write up the new policies or the new legal structure for your organization. They can also review governing documents, so articles of association, articles of incorporation, help you rewrite policies related to having a board of directors. If you're looking to shift the board of directors, these are all questions that our structuring and governance focused pro bono corporate lawyers can assist with. There are also further questions related to the COVID-19 pandemic that we've seen come up. So just maybe any updates to risk guidance that maybe need to be updated in your governance documents, or maybe the structure of your organization has changed in terms of the activities that you're engaging in due to the COVID-19 pandemic. So these are all considerations that you can speak with a lawyer through TrustLaw with, and they can help figure out next steps with you. We also do work in employment and labor. And so if you are an organization that has employees, volunteers, interns, independent contractors, TrustLaw pro bono lawyers can help write up contracts. They can help review those contracts. We often have TrustLaw pro bono employment lawyers write up employee handbooks or HR policies. They can review different types of employment structures, such as benefit structures, to advise you on what are the legal requirements in your state, perhaps related to benefit structures. Similar to the structuring, there have been some increased employment questions related to the COVID-19 pandemic, such as a work from home policy or a hybrid policy, or any kinds of benefits or legal obligations to workers who are caring for those who have been impacted by the COVID-19 pandemic. So these are all questions that you could bring to a trust law lawyer, and they could walk you through this and help you draft these types of policies or contracts. We also do work in intellectual property and data protection, and this has really seen an impact since by COVID-19. I think with all of the organizations that are working from home or moving some of their services online, we now have a lot of requests for updating the terms and conditions, updating data protection and privacy policies, given that there are many employees now working from home who are handling very sensitive data. If you are working outside of the US, perhaps in the UK or in Europe, you might have to look into, does my data protection policy comply with the GDPR? Have I reviewed all of the different devices that we have, both personal and for work, that our employees are using? And then outside of data protection, do you have a brand or a logo or an idea that you would like to protect so that no one else can use that or replicate it without crediting your organization? So that's the type of thing that we can help with. We can help you apply for the trademark or the copyright or the patent. We can walk you through that process. And while most of the time trust lawyers will not help prosecute those patents or see that through, because it can be quite a lengthy process, they'll really walk you through those first steps and make sure your application is filed, and then let you know what are the legal considerations that you need to think about moving forward with these ideas and brands. They can also help you update. If you have trademarked an idea, for an example, or an invention, and you've made some changes to that idea or invention, trust law pro bono lawyers can help you update that and apply for any new trademarks that might encompass that new data. So those are all things that intellectual property lawyers through trust law can help with pro bono. We also work in contract law. I think I mentioned that in terms of employment, but if you're working with some kind of vendor who's providing goods or services, or collaborating with external partners or organizations, then trust law lawyers can help draft new contracts. They can help you draft template contracts or amend or revise existing contracts. So those are all, I think every organization really at some point has some kind of contract, either with a vendor or a client or an employee. And these are really common questions that our lawyers are very prepared to assist with. Similarly, we have tax and finance questions that we can help with. I won't go through the details of these, but just as an example, if you're looking to fundraise and you have fundraising questions about maybe doing so in a country other than where you're registered, these are questions that our lawyers can help you consider in terms of, perhaps, do I want to register in this country? Will it be more difficult? Are there tax implications? Are there tax benefits I'm not taking advantage of? So these are all questions that our lawyers can assist you with. And lastly, I mentioned earlier, we do research. So if you're an organization that carries out advocacy activities, whether that's engaging in policy work or strategic litigation, or just if there's information that you think that your constituents really need to know and understand, this is the type of work that we can really help with. So perhaps it's an internal memo that you just want for your team to understand what are the legal implications of this new legislation that might be impacting our members and our constituents and our community. And a trust law lawyer will speak through that with you and then connect you with a pro bono lawyer to help you understand what are the research questions that I have, what's the information that we need to have before we can start our advocacy activities. Or it could be an external question or an external memo or a guide for your members that might tell them these are the rights that you have and these are the things that you need to consider before engaging in X activity. So these are some of just the questions that our lawyers can help with, although of course it's not limited to these questions. There are so many more topics and questions that the trust law lawyers can assist with. And I just want to give a couple of examples of some of the great products we've been able to finish out through trust law. So the first one is advisory project for the Samir Kassir Foundation. They're a media freedom organization that helps protect journalists and free speech. And after the civil war in Lebanon ended, the organization was having a lot of difficulty accessing their funds to support these journalists at risk. So they reached out to TrustLaw for assistance. They were paired with international law firm Latham & Watkins, and they helped them incorporate as a nonprofit in France, which ensured their financial stability. So that's one great example of a super meaningful project that we were able to accomplish for this great organization in an advisory capacity. Another great example of a research project was the Committee to Protect Journalists. They approached TrustLaw for research assistance to publish a guide for their journalist members. So this is an example of that external type of research publication that we can assist with. So after the widespread protests in the US in 2020, the Committee to Protect Journalists members reached out to that organization asking what are their rights when they're covering these protests, if they're being arrested, if they're being searched, what are their rights? So law firm Allen & Overy paired up with TrustLaw and the Committee to Protect Journalists and published a Know Your Rights guide for the journalists about what are your rights under the First and Fourth Amendments when you're reporting on protests. The guide has since been shared widely among the journalist members of the committee, and we've been told that it's been frequently used before and after protest reporting, and that it really was an invaluable resource. So what we really wanted to do was show you this video that we made to highlight this really incredible project and how meaningful it was for the journalists who benefited from it.
During 2020's summer of social unrest following the police killing of George Floyd, a record number of journalists were attacked while covering the story, many at the hands of law enforcement.
Do you mind telling me why I'm under arrest, sir? Why am I under arrest?
According to the U.S. Press Freedom Tracker, more than 400 assault claims were recorded in May and June of that year alone. That's 8 times the number of confirmed attacks from all of 2019.
Exactly what it looks like. We're just exactly.
Oh,
Whoa!
it used to be the case that journalists were most in danger covering wars. Increasingly, we see them at risk in all sorts of contexts, including most recently at protests.
This rise in violence led many journalists to seek legal counsel on their rights when confronted by police officers while covering protests. Through TrustLaw, the Thomson Reuters Foundation's pro bono service, the Committee to Protect Journalists was connected with international law firm Allen & Overy to put together a concise legal guide for reporters to use in the field. It outlined such basic rights as the right to gather news and record law enforcement, protect against unreasonable search and seizure, as well as offering practical advice for reporting in times of civil unrest, such as information on the proper legal grounds for arrest and what to do if detained.
We were immediately excited to get involved in something that was really at the forefront of everybody's minds in that moment. And we're really excited that the Committee to Protect Journalists is still using it to this day and sending it out in advance of any demonstration.
The protection of journalists is a fundamental pillar of the Thomson Reuters Foundation's work to advance media freedom and a cornerstone of a healthy democracy, supporting an open, empowered press who can report freely and without intimidation on the critical issues of our time.
Thank you. So this is just a great example of a project that we did with this Committee to Protect Journalists. And really, this is an example of the Committee to Protect Journalists approached TrustLaw with this idea, which was our members are coming to us with this issue. They had a call with a TrustLaw lawyer so they could talk through what are the legal questions that we have. And then they were paired with a law firm to really dive deeper into those issues and produce this very accessible, helpful guide that can be used every day by their members. So this is the type of research support that we could really help with. I've talked a lot about the type of work we can do. I do want to quickly just note a few things that we can't do. So we don't engage in any direct advocacy. We're not representing the communities that you're working with outside of these types of Know Your Rights guides, but rather we're helping your organization effectively operate and do so legally so you can continue doing the valuable work that you're doing in those communities. So we similarly don't do litigations or disputes. So as an example, we can advise on a contract, but we can't litigate a dispute around a violation of that contract. Or we can help file patent applications, but we can't do the work prosecuting those patents. So those are the types of things that we can't do. And then lastly, they're all on the screen, but I think another really important one that might be relevant is we don't offer urgent assistance. There's a minimum 1 week waiting period before your project is connected to a lawyer. And at this point, we say it takes about a month right now in the US to connect a project from when you have that initial call with the TrustLaw lawyer to write it up to when it's actually connected to a lawyer. It takes about a month. So we really can't make promises to connect projects where the deadline is within a month. But this TrustLaw advice is provided by lawyers in their areas of expertise fully online. So we also don't do in-person work. So those are just some of the things that we can't do, but let's get to how do you become a TrustLaw member and how can we support you? So the next steps to become a member is our membership is free, is the first thing to know, completely free to organizations, completely free to law firms. We encourage you to apply for membership, and we have this very short online process. It's really more of a quiz that you can fill out to apply. So the first thing would be to check our membership eligibility criteria, which we will go through on the next slide, to submit the online application form at apply.trust.org. And then we will process your application. Usually it takes about 2 weeks, but because Taproot is a referring partner of ours, Taproot members get priority review faster than 2 weeks. So once the process is completed, we'll process the application. And if you're accepted, we will send all details such as how to make an account, how to access our service, anything that you might need, guides to getting started about the legal health check, and also just any other considerations that you might need to think about. So let's quickly just talk about the eligibility criteria. We focus on non-discriminatory, apolitical, and non-proselytizing organizations. And we have just some other criteria. If you are a social enterprise that has a for-profit component, we require that at least 51% of profits are reinvested back into the social mission. But it's a fairly straightforward criteria. So once you apply, if you meet these criteria, you'll be approved. And if you don't, we will always talk through what is missing or what needs to change or what more information we might need to process your application. So we will never put you on hold or reject an application without some kind of explanation as to why. And if you ever have any questions, we'd be happy to answer them in more detail. So let's talk about how it actually works when you're on our portal. So you'll log into our portal. On your screen, you'll just see this brief overview of how the service works. So once you're a member, you can log into your portal, which you'll have access to once you're approved as a member. And just again, all of this information will of course be sent to you once you're actually approved as a member. So you can then submit a request for legal assistance through our portal, and you'll schedule a call with a TrustLaw lawyer to talk through the legal issue in more detail. So that TrustLaw lawyer is not one of the pro bono lawyers who will do the actual work. They're a lawyer who works for TrustLaw, such as myself, who will really talk through the legal issue with you to figure out what is the information that a law firm might need, what are the legal questions that your organization has at the moment, so that we can write up this more formal request to post on our portal. So once that request is posted, lawyers and law firms can make offers of assistance. So they'll send through maybe some qualifications such as who will be working on the project, what their background is, and then you will receive those offers of assistance as they come in, and you decide which firm will be the best fit to work on your project. So we really leave that in the hands of your organization. For the first week that a project is up, law firms all submit requests and we hold them all at once. And then at the end of that week, we send all of them to you at once. And that's really to make sure that all the law firms are having an opportunity to submit a request on this new project. And then you decide which firm is the best, which lawyer is the best fit for you. And then we'll connect you with that law firm and the work proceeds from there. And we really take a step back at that point to let your organization and the law firm work on this process organically in terms of figuring out next steps, the timeline. We're always there to help or assist if there's some kind of miscommunication or any other issue that needs assistance. We are always there to support along the way. We really like to take a step back at this point and let the organization, the law firm, work together from there. So the image provided here is just a screen capture image of the TrustLaw portal's homepage, so you can really see what it looks like. So in the top right, you'll see you can access the new request button to submit a new request. In the middle of the screen, you see your recent requests for assistance, right? So it shows what are the active ones that you have up. and it says here that you might have an offer that you need to view. So once you view it, you'll either approve it or reject it, which means you'll either accept the assistance from the law firm, or you'll tell us, no, we want to wait and see if another law firm makes an offer of assistance. And then you can also see information on the status and offers on all of your requests. So if there are any accessibility questions around our portal, you can contact us at TrustLaw@ThomsonReuters.com. We are currently updating this portal, so there will be some changes and hopefully some new features that you'll all find a little bit more helpful and exciting. But for now, if there are any questions, please email us. And that's about it. So we're super excited to be doing this presentation and to hopefully have some applications for membership. We really have been able to have this really incredible service because of great organizations such as yourselves that are passionate about their social mission, and these law firms who are so excited about your missions that they're willing to do all of this legal work completely for free. So now I'd like to open it up for questions. I'm sure there are some specific questions on matters we can take, or perhaps questions on our membership process. So please feel free to drop them in the chat and we can start answering those questions now.
So Kelsey, thank you. And we will go through the Q&A. First, we are hearing from Terry from Vancouver. And Terry is asking, can I use this service if I don't have a registered nonprofit, but plan on using a fiscal sponsor?
So that's a really great question. We do look for some kind of registration, but we do have organizations that are fiscally sponsored by larger foundations or organizations. So that's definitely something you should still apply for, and we might just ask for some more documentation.
Okay, Kathleen is asking, do you help with threats to be sued over copyright infringement?
So that's another really great question, and it is complicated, right? Because we don't do litigation or dispute, so we wouldn't be able to represent someone in that kind of dispute. However, our law firms that are our members routinely provide advice around that, so they might be able to assess what is the risk here, what are your responsibilities and obligations, and what might be the best strategy moving forward. So they won't be able to advise you specifically and represent you in the dispute, but they can advise you on the legal concerns around the dispute, if that makes sense.
Okay, and you touched a little bit on this next question, but I wanted to see if you wanted to clarify any more. Is there any legal support or training for nonprofits in terms of avoiding or defending against potential lawsuits, namely like SLAPP or otherwise, from corporations?
Yeah, that's a super interesting question. And we've actually been looking into doing some research around SLAPP suits just because they've become so much more common and so much more dangerous for our nonprofit members. So we don't have anything specific around that yet, but please watch the space. And we do have a guide for if you're looking to structure in the US as a nonprofit, or if you're looking as an international nonprofit to incorporate in the US, to specific guides to cover some issues that if a legal member isn't able to assist you, hopefully you can get some of the answers from those guides. So while we don't have one specific about SLAPP suits now, that's certainly something that we're aware of and looking into in terms of research.
Okay, great. Caitlin is asking, can you help obtain trademarks?
Yes, so that's a common request that we get is for nonprofits and social enterprises looking to trademark some kind of idea or invention or logo or brand. And so that's certainly something that we can assist with. What the law firms will do is they'll work with you to help you file any trademark applications in all of the appropriate jurisdictions. And then they probably won't see the project through the 3 to 5 years it often takes before you have to prosecute your trademark or your patent application, but they will help you file all of those kind of trademark and patent application and registrations.
Okay, and can you help with changing bylaws?
Yes, so that falls into our governance bucket. It's a really great question, and it's a really great project that our lawyers are eager to take on, especially ones that are used to working for corporations and are excited to do the same kind of work for nonprofits. So that's a really great question and definitely something we can work on. They can help you write the bylaws. They can help you amend existing bylaws. They can help maybe draft other kinds of governance documents, such as articles of incorporation or association. So absolutely, that's something that we can do.
And let's see, we're trying to figure out our appropriate legal structure. Can someone at TrustLaw help with that as well?
Yes, so that's also a really common question that we get. And what we'll do is when you kind of submit that request to our portal, you'll have a call with a TrustLaw lawyer to go through more of the details on that. So we can really help figure out what is the type of structure that you have now, what is the type of structure that you're looking for, so we can really match you with the best lawyer. It might be that you're trying to incorporate as a nonprofit in a new country. It might be that you're trying to have some kind of for-profit entity that's part of your nonprofit entity, and you don't want to endanger the nonprofit status. So that's certainly something that legal members can advise on. They can, do the research and tell you what the different options are, and then they can help walk you through the process of maybe changing the structure or just updating it.
Okay, and here's a question I see a few places. We just received our 501c3. Now what?
That's a good question. So I think maybe one of the next steps would be some of those governance documents in terms of maybe updating the bylaws, establishing a board of directors or trustees. Those are all things that our legal network can help with. We can't really guide you on coming up with the legal questions ourselves, but what we do is have that legal health check so you can kind of go through the questions and say, is this something my organization needs? Is this something that we have a legal question about? And then we can...
Sorry, everyone, we're having more technical difficulties with Kelsey's audio. Please give us 1 second. Sorry about this.
I can hear all of you. I'm so sorry. It's not letting me know when I'm getting kicked out, so I really apologize for that.
No problem. Let's see, next question is, they're asking about liabilities for nonprofits and insurance options.
Yeah, so there are a lot of law firms we work with that do insurance law and liability law. So for example, if you're an organization that works with kids, you might need special contracts around liability when those kids are in your care, for example. And so that's a really common contract issue that our legal members can help with. Same with other insurance law questions.
And this is another question I think you briefly touched on, but I guess they just need some more clarification. It sounds like your organization can do a lot of work with nonprofits. How is all of this free to the NFP?
Yeah, I mean, I think what's really great about this is that our legal members are really motivated to provide this assistance, and that's really why we can do this for free. They really want to do this work for organizations that they feel passionate about, and so so it's completely free. I know it's hard to believe because it's really a great service, but it is completely free.
Okay, and is each nonprofit only allowed to work with you on one area of pro bono legal at a time?
No, so we say that nonprofits and social enterprises can have 3 active projects open at once. And what we mean by that is 3 projects that haven't been connected for legal assistance. So if you have 3 projects and they're all connected, and even though they're still open, if they're not looking for legal help, you can post another 3. So you can have multiple projects running at once in all different areas of the law.
Okay, and what about fiscally sponsored nonprofits?
Yes, so we do work with fiscally sponsored nonprofits, whether that's by a foundation or by different grants. And so that is definitely something that we can assist with. That we have many questions around that related to financial law questions. It just might be something where we have a few more questions or need additional documentation during your application process.
And Marcia is asking for clarification on one thing. As I understand, your services would be for the nonprofit needing legal assistance, however, not their clients. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct. So the only time we really consider it for the clients is that research work, like the Know Your Rights guide that went out to the membership base and was for them. We're really working to help the operations of the nonprofit.
Okay, and can you help when a large company stole our name? We are a small profit, even if we have a registered trademark?
Yes, so that is a common question that we have as well. Unfortunately, it is the kind of case where a trademark lawyer in our network might be able to give you advice on what your next steps are. while they wouldn't be able to represent you in maybe prosecuting that trademark or in that dispute, they could advise you on your options and maybe what the next steps forward should be.
Okay. So this is related to your answer about nonprofits can work on 3 projects at a time. Would they be speaking to different law firms depending on the topic area?
Yes. So the law firms that we have, so many of them have practice areas in every kind of department, but their capacity really varies. So you might be doing employment law question with one firm and a trademark question with another firm. You can, if you really enjoy working with one firm, we can always give them kind of the first pass to see if they're available for future requests. But yes, you would likely be working with different law firms on the different projects.
Okay. How long does it usually take to speak with someone to get connected?
So you're connected with a TrustLaw lawyer immediately. Once you submit it through the portal, you'll be sent an invitation to book a call with a TrustLaw lawyer to talk about it. After that, we say it takes about a month for it to get connected to a law firm to work on the issue.
Okay. Can you advise on, fair use of copyright materials?
Yes, we can definitely work on those types of issues. Our IP lawyers are really familiar with working in that space.
I'm so sorry, everyone. It looks like we're having quite a few technical difficulties. If you could please continue putting in your questions in the chat box. It looks like we'll probably have to end for the day. We will send out all the slides since we were having technical difficulties throughout the presentation. And obviously we'll be sending the recording as well. I would like to thank everyone, especially for dealing with all these technical difficulties. Sorry about that. But I would like to give a huge thank you to Kelsey Lee. Unfortunately, she probably can't hear me, so I will definitely talk to her later. As I mentioned, we'll be sending an email later today with the resources that she mentioned, the TrustLaw resources, along with the recording of this webinar and the slides. Please join us for our next webinar, Fuel Your Fundraising with Volunteer Support. It'll be on Wednesday, September 7th. And on behalf of Taproot and Kelsey, TrustLaw, I would like to thank you all so much for attending. And we will see you next time. Thank you.